This meeting is being held remotely and is recorded and live streamed. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Kim Daughtry.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councilmember Joe Marine.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councilmember Jared Mead. Councilmember Tom Merrill.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor John Nearing.
Here.
Thank you. Labor Representative Lance Norton.
Here, Rachel.
Thank you. Mayor Sid Roberts.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Jan Schweddy.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Nicholas Smith. I believe she'll be joining in progress. And also Councilmember Stephanie Wright has informed me she'll be joining in progress. Chair, we do have a quorum. I'll also take roll for our board alternate so we know who's in attendance. Councilmember Mike Gallagher.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Christiana Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. And do we have Mayor Matsumoto Wright today? Okay. Councilmember McNeil. Okay. Councilmember Nate Nearing. Okay. Chair, that concludes roll. Chair, you're on mute.
I'm going to delete Zoom one of these days. All right, next we're going to go to public comment. We have 2 written comments put in by Mr. Joe Kunzler. Hopefully everybody got those in your packet. And we have 1 person signed up for verbal comment, another, and that will also be Joe Kunzler. And anybody else that is in the attendees can raise their hand or virtual hand to have verbal comments here as soon as we're done conversing with Mr. Kunzler. Mr. Kunzler, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. As always, it's a great privilege to address you today, and I'm happy to speak to you about transit stuff for the first time in a while, which is that, with my green tie and everything on. Your Cork's camera just cut out. Can you all still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, at least this thing says it's recording, so we will press on. But I appreciate the board members if your camera's on. As some of you saw last night, I always make a point of that. It's just a open government point of emphasis. No, we're not picking on anybody. What I came here to talk to you about was I want to support these frameworks that go on between, Everett Transit and community transit. Because we need one transit network. You may have noticed my background today is very much, Everett Transit bus and a community transit bus, and that's on purpose because we need one network for Snohomish County, not 2 networks that rarely intermesh. We've got dead zones like the future of flight, and frankly, connecting Mukilteo to, Everett and points beyond has been very difficult. I have found in my 7 years of transit advocacy, and this framework is really, truly going to fix that. I hope to goodness this is being recorded because this is a really good speech. I'm just really supportive of that. And I just really want to stress that we need this framework. Everett passed it Wednesday after some pontificating by council members that are mostly leaving the council. And then finally, I'm going to bring up our friend COVID-19 very briefly. I was going to say a lot more, but I think my time's running out. I really appreciate the vaccine mandate. I think it's necessary to protect the staff. You have done such a great job and the board, and the health of everyone around you. And I actually appreciate the fact that we are going to be able to talk about, starting next month, just transit stuff and not public health, because when we come into this board, we come and talk about public transit and stay laser focused on that, because some very exciting things are coming. And if you like I don't like talking about COVID-19, please get vaccinated and stay boosted. That's called being a bloody adult in the community. And thank you for you making the personal choice to protect the integrity of the system. Thank you everyone for your time. I hope it was a good outing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kunzler. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to raise their digital hand and speak with the board? Seeing none, I will move on. Next up, we have presentations. Mr. Engelfritz, you're on.
Can I just interrupt? This is Board Member Smith. I'm coming in on my telephone. I can't get in on my computer, but I'm here listening.
Thank you, Nicola.
Bye. I mean,
I'd
not
also
bye.
like to
Bye.
recognize that Mayor Matsumoto right is here also.
Great. Well, it's great to see Mayor Smith joining us and Mayor Matsumoto right as well. Okay, let's brief two recognitions today. I want to start with Anna Schorb, who is celebrating her 20th anniversary at Community Transit. 20 years. She is an accounting specialist, and there she is, smiling for the board as she always does. She started in 2001, October 1st, 2001, which is, if you put your memory cap on, you can recall was a pretty interesting time in the world of transit, in the world in general. But she's been a stalwart ally and contributor at Community Transit for 2 decades. She's dedicated, she's very collaborative, and she's very well liked by her colleagues. Anna is the person who compiles she's an accounting specialist who keeps track of all of our asset management. She knows and does every year our capital asset inventory. So she knows where every paperclip in the entire agency is. If you need that information, she can pull it for you. She oversees our workers' comp account, our travel advance program. She reviews all of our credit card transactions to make sure they're compliant with policy and properly recorded and supportive. So particularly those of you on the Finance and Administration Committee who go over those records and that extra detail we began providing this year, you're reviewing Anna's work. So we are incredibly grateful for her thoroughness and her commitment to the organization and the quality of the work she does. When she's not here, she spends time with family. I'm told she's an amazing cook and a gifted artist. I'm hoping that at some point in the future, when we're allowed to have events with food again, that we'll be able to test that out and see if the reputation matches the hype matches the product. So anyway, Anna, thank you for being here. Congratulations on 20 years at Community Transit, and thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. I'm not really interested in paper clips, but I do want to have a report on how much Scotch tape we use. But congratulations, Anna. Thank you very much for your 20 years of service.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a certain board member who is departing. And I'm so glad that she arrived just in time, although I wish she was on camera so we could make her blush. It is our honor today to recognize Mayor Nicola Smith of Linwood as she retires after serving as mayor since 2014. As she leaves public service, leading the city of Linwood, she's also departing the Community Transit Board and also the Sound Transit Board, where she's been a regional leader supporting transit investments at all levels, local and regional. I'm grateful she could be here today. I know she's got plans and things she's wrapping up at the city. And so we're lucky to have her this one last time. I have only worked closely with Mayor Smith for a year. I'm sure board members, you've had the opportunity to enjoy her collaboration for much longer than that, but she made such a big impact on my young tenure here. Her enthusiasm for public service, her leadership qualities, her tendency to empower staff and create room for creative and high performing teams to do the work that they need to do to serve the public has been inspiring to me. From the moment I got here, she was generous in welcoming me into the community of leaders in South Snohomish County, and giving me an opportunity to build relationships with some of my counterparts in other public institutions like Edmonds College and School District and some of the healthcare providers in South County. And it's just really been, I'm tremendously grateful for her generous hosting of me as a new leader in the community. Just a couple weeks ago, Roland and I were hosted by Mayor Smith on a tour of Linwood. I think I mentioned that in one of my committee reports, and we got a chance to, oh, and here's some pictures, tour the STEM building at Edmonds College, and to do a drive around windshield tour of where the Linwood pilot project is going to provide microtransit service. We got to break a little bread at a Thai restaurant and talk about city priorities and work with her team. So it was really just a great use of time, and I'm just so grateful for that. She's overseen a lot of change. Linwood is probably the fastest changing city in the entire county. There may be others changing almost as quickly, but with the development and the housing and the transit and the employment that's coming into Linwood, she's really made her mark to make Linwood a 21st century city. Affordable, vibrant, and a place people want to be. So with that in mind, Mayor Smith, we've got a little hardware for you here to add to your collection and hopefully hang on the wall of your trailer.
Thank you. I have the perfect spot for it there.
I promise when you get it in person, it won't be backwards.
Oh, okay.
So I'll stop there. Thank you, Mayor Smith, for your generosity and your leadership. And I'm sure other board members have more eloquent things to add than I've been able to contribute here.
Well, Mayor Smith, I'm not eloquent, but we are going to miss you. And I'll just leave it open for the other board members at this point.
Yeah, Mayor Smith, I have,
Go ahead, Jen.
really appreciated your space on the board. I remember when we were having the discussion and everything with where we were going with the link. It was just vital that we have someone from Linwood who knew everything. And it has helped enormously in getting all of this done. And and I'm really going to miss you. I don't know if you've decided where you're going to live yet. I think at one point you might have been even looking up close to me, but if you do, stay in touch, please. And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jan.
Well, I'd like to say something. I had the privilege of sitting on the dais beside Nicola Smith, and she's the real deal. Dell too. They're a quality team, and they, we always say people are going to be missed, but and it's mostly true most of the time. But with the Smiths and Nicola's leadership in Linwood, it's going to be different, and there's quality people there that'll pick up the ball and run with it. But Nicola, we just love you. You're just a special person, and wish you the best. Thanks.
Thank you, Sid.
All right, everybody else? Well, Nicola, as it's been said, we are going to miss you. Hopefully we'll see you again in the future, just to talk about old times and maybe some of your new things that you're doing. And I guess that's about it. But thank you for joining us one last time for this year.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be here. this is a great board. I understand why everybody loves being on this board, because you guys are just nice, and you make the board membership a lot easier than Sound Transit does, I gotta say. So keep it up. It's been a delight learning from each of you and working with you, not only on the CT board, but in other capacities, like when we had Snohomish County cities up and running pre-COVID and all that. So it's been great. And I keep shouting out that community transit is such a great transit partner. Did it again at where were we, Rick? I gave you a shout out. Anyway.
The Everett Link.
Oh, right.
Elected
The elected leadership group, and told that group to not forget that community transit also needs space and is building and meeting OMF facilities up north as Sound Transit does. So hopefully I have done you well with me being the community transit representative on the Sound Transit Board for Snohomish County. I tried. I had a lot to learn, but tried. And Jan, I am, I think, pretty much your neighbor. We've bought 7 acres up in the Machias area. So we're only 15 minutes from Kim in Lake Stevens, which would also be our grandchildren. And a third of its wetlands. We're very excited. And we're going to meet with our retirement home design architect Saturday morning. So we're really anxious to get on a roll and not live in our trailer full time for too much longer. So thank you, Sid Roberts, for finding that piece of land for us. We're loving it. So Rick, good luck. You're the right guy at the right time for this organization, and that you have that extra experience from Sound Transit is just a blessing for community transit. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks for the plaque.
Thank you, Nicola. All right, so we need to move on. Committee reports. Let's start with strategic alignment and capital development. Councilmember Marine.
Okay, I can do that. So the meeting was held remotely over Zoom on Wednesday, November 17th at 2 o'clock. I was present, Council Member Tom Merrill, Labor Representative Lance Norton, and Mayor Nicholas Smith. The committee reviewed and forwarded 3 action items on today's board agenda. The RFQ 2017-079, which is a task order for the Merrill Creek Administration Building Improvements Project, Construction Management Services. This item will be presented by Greg Stamitu, and I hope I don't mess up his name, the Capital Development Program Manager. Also, we have RFP 2021-12, heavy duty transit buses. Todd Burris, the Assistant Manager of Programs and Projects, will be presenting that item. And finally, we have RFP 2021-56, which is a purchase of bipolar ionization units. Todd Burris will also be presenting that item. There are no consent items for today's board agenda. The committee also heard 3 informational items. June Duvall, the Deputy Director of Planning, briefed the committee on the status of the commuter bus service contract and planned procurement strategy. Roland Behe, Director of Planning and Development, provided an overview of the Everett Community Transit Joint Study Framework Agreement, and this item was presented to the Executive Committee on the November 18th meeting for board recommendation. And then Noah Tunick, the Transit Integration Manager, updated the committee on preliminary plans for the Sound Transit Link extension into Everett, and a full presentation to Community Transit Board of Directors is planned for the second quarter of next year. Under other business, Mayor Nicholas Smith thanked the Community Transit staff for attending the recent tour through the city of Linwood, and Mayor Smith announced her departure from the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee, and we had an opportunity to thank her for her service there. She thanked everyone for a great experience and for the opportunity to serve as a member of the committee. So the next meeting of the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee is Wednesday, December the 15th at 2 p.m. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Marine. Next is Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee, Councilmember Schweddy.
Kim, did you mean to skip the executive officer's report?
Yeah, I'm going backwards.
Okay, not a problem. Just
I just wanted to know if you were paying attention, Jan. You didn't look like it there for a while.
The Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee met on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 via Zoom, and Community Transit Planning Conference Room. Board members Tom Merrill, Sid Roberts, and I attended along with CEO Rick Eldrenfritz and agency staff. On the consent agenda is approval of October 2021 expenditures and payroll C through G. On the action agenda is Resolution 12-21, amending the 2021 budget. Mary Albert, Budget Manager, presented information on Resolution number 12-21. This resolution includes an increase in the amount of $37,354,592 to sales tax collection, a decrease in the amount of $5,264,874 to fair revenues, and a decrease in the amount of $3,774,932 to the Sound Transit commuter service revenue. The budget amendment is the technical mechanism to increase or decrease budgeted amounts in the appropriate fund. Also is Resolution 11-21, adopting the 2022 budget. Mary Albert, Budget Manager, presented information on Resolution 10-21, adopting the 2022 budget. The board reviewed the proposed budget at their October 28th workshop. A public hearing was held November 4th, 2021 during the board meeting. No questions were received from board members. However, public comments were received and a copy is included in your board packet. Reports, third quarter 2021 Transit Police Report. Sergeant Glenn DeWitt briefed the committee on this report. A copy is included in your packet. And if I could add something here, please, if you have a minute, go through and look at the report and the numbers of incidents they handled in the last 2 years. It's really pretty eye-opening and will give you a better idea of what exactly the 19 people that we have up there is doing, because it's incredible. The third quarter 2021 financial report unaudited. The committee discussed the third quarter 2021 financial report. As of September 30th, 2021, operating revenues totaled $186.1 million, which is 80.8% of the 2021 budgeted revenues of $230.3 million. As of September 30th, all categories of operating expenditures amounted to $113.6 million, which is 68.9% of the 2021 budgeted amount of $164.9 million. Sales tax report for October 2021. Community Transit collected approximately $15.9 million in sales tax revenue, approximately $3.5 million more than budgeted. This is for purchases made in August. Diesel fuel report for October 2021. Year-to-date through October 2021, Community Transit paid an average of $2.20 per gallon for diesel fuel compared to the 2021 amended budget amount of $2.07 per gallon. This is a negative variance of 13 cents per gallon. The budget team continues to closely monitor fuel costs. The next Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee meeting is scheduled at 2 p.m. Thursday, December 16th, 2021 via Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schwede. The Executive Committee report, we met on November 18th. Councilmember Schwede, Councilmember Marine, Mayor Naring, and I attended. CEO and Director Behe presented the City of Everett Community Transit Joint Study Framework Agreement, and the committee recommended this item as an action item on today's agenda. The CEO provided his report, and the next Executive Committee meeting is scheduled for December 16th at 11:30. Continuing in my backwards manner, we will now have the Chief Executive's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we have a lot on the agenda today, so I will try to be brief. quick COVID update, 11 cases so far in November, compared with 10 in October and 23 in September. Good news to report, we reached our 85% vaccination milestone this week, which is a great accomplishment. When we started that incentive program, we were at about 40%, a little over. And we were at about 66% when we put the requirement in place. So we're making progress. I previously reported that we reached agreements with our unions on implementing the vaccination policy. Our testing program has been in place and we've had full compliance with that. As of today, we've got about 14% of the workforce not reporting that they're vaccinated, and we've got 8% of our workforce who have requested exemptions and or accommodations. So we are in the process of working through those requests, and that's going to play out over the rest of this month. That's a difficult decision, not easy for folks, but I also hear from many employees who are very grateful for the policy. So we're going to continue to work through this and try to convince everybody to choose the remedy. I'll keep you posted, obviously, as we go forward. I was going to echo Councilmember Schwette's call out of the social worker pilot program. I'll just limit my comment to observing that it has been successful, effective, popular with our field staff and our transit police, and there is funding in the proposed budget that's before you today to continue that program. So I would echo her advice to take a look at the report because there's been some good outcomes there. We launched our zero emission study with our consultant team, and we have moved off the watchful waiting posture and are actively now engaged in doing our analysis, and we'll look forward to updating the board periodically over the next year as we learn more and begin to form our views about how to evolve our fleet. Councilmember Schwette also mentioned earlier that we have launched our 2024 planning effort and made a presentation this week to EASC. We have a survey open online to gather public input to inform our initial work to restructure our 2024 network. We're getting great feedback and response. We have several hundred responses already, and had an opportunity with about 100 participants at EASC earlier this week to encourage employers and nonprofits and other partners who participate in that forum to give us their feedback and help us design the new network. On the legislative front, I had the opportunity last week to meet out at Montlake Terrace Station with Congressman Rick Larson and Mayor Matsumoto Wright and my counterpart at Sound Transit, Peter Rogoff, and we were able to tour the progress at the Montlake Terrace Station on the Linwood Link project and talk about the recently passed infrastructure package. It was a lot of fun. The weather cooperated for us, and we had an opportunity to hear from the congressman about his focus on implementing now the infrastructure, the new infrastructure investment package. So he's eager to see his constituents and the organizations in the 2nd District in Washington State and nationally to be able to take advantage of these investments. We met today with our federal affairs team and our internal planning team to begin that process. Just a couple notes on last board meeting. You heard testimony from a couple of people, Mr. Bermani from Snow Goose Transit, and Edmond School District Board Member Kilgore. I just wanted to let you know that staff has met with both of those folks and are engaged in follow-up discussions to address their input. So that is it for me, Mr. Chair. This is the last board meeting of the year for me, and I just want to tell you all how grateful I am for your leadership and your support over what has been an exciting and also challenging year. I just want to note that as we head into the holiday season, and thank you for your efforts on behalf of the agency and the employees here.
Thank you, Mr. Fritz. I appreciate it. Next on the agenda is, because I'm no longer going backwards, will be the consent items. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move approval. John, Miriam?
Moved by
Second.
Mayor Naring, seconded by Councilmember Schweddy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Yeah, opposed? Abstain? It's passed unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is our first action item of several. Approve resolution number 1221, amending the 2021 budget, and we'll hear from Mary Albert. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. So before you is Resolution 1221. This amends the 2021 budget to reflect changes in 3 different revenue sources that have occurred during the year. Jan did a great job of talking about this, so I don't have nearly as much to say as I would have. So we're requesting an increase in the sales tax budget, first of all, to a total of $176.3 million. Our sales tax distributions have come in considerably over budget this year, and we may even exceed our amended budget. Now, the second 2 items are reductions to fare revenues and to sound transit reimbursements. We're proposing a decrease of $5.3 million to fare revenues and a decrease of $3.8 to sound transit. These reflect actual ridership and service levels that have occurred in 2021. And then all of these revenue streams are operating revenues. They're recorded in Fund 40. The net effect of this budget amendment is an increase to the operating revenue budget of about $25 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Cam, you're muted. Anybody have any questions for Mary? It doesn't sound like it. So how about a motion on this action item?
Okay, I'll make the motion that the Board of Directors approve the proposed amendment to the 2021 budget presented in resolution number 1221.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Jan Schweddy, seconded by Tom Merrill. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up will be the approval of resolution number 1121, adopting the 2022 budget. And Mary, you're up again.
Thank you. Resolution 1121 before you allows you to approve the 2022 budget. So the budget was presented to Finance, Performance, and Oversight on October 21st, and then to the board at the October 28th workshop. A public hearing was also held on 11/4 when one member of the public was able to present public testimony. This budget is balanced. Operating revenues cover expenditures, other obligations and reserves, and they fully fund capital projects. The resolution also sets the administrative pay plan at 1/1/2022. We ask that you consider the adoption of resolution 1121. And again, I would be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody have any questions about the 2022 budget? Seeing none, Mr. Joe Marine.
Yeah, Chair Dr. I was just going to make a motion. The Board of Directors approve resolution number 11-21, adopting the 2022 proposed budget.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Mr. Naring.
Yeah, I just wanted to say once again, thank you to staff, particularly the finance team. Really solid budget. It's always hard to come up with good questions because they do such a thorough job on this. Having been on the finance committee before, just wanted to make sure they knew we appreciated that as board members.
Thank you, Mr. Naring. Anybody else? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor of resolution number 1121, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained? Passed unanimously. I also like to thank the Finance Committee and the rest of the staff that puts their time in and effort into the budget every year. Outstanding job as always. We've come to expect it, and hopefully it'll never change. The awards on the wall attest to the fact that it probably won't. So thank you very much, Mary, and everybody else that had anything to do with the budget. Next on the agenda is an action item award RFQ 2017-079 task order for the MC Admin Building Improvements Project Construction Management Services. And Greg Stamatio will be giving us a presentation.
Thank you, board members. It's Greg Stamatio with the Capital Development Team here at Community Transit. Quickly, I'd like to thank Dan Jerome with our capital team and Rodney Walgren with our procurement team who helped me facilitate this contract. This contract today is for construction management services to help manage a future contract next year for the construction and of the renovations of our Merrill Creek admin building. Last year in May, the board approved a design task order to redesign the Merrill Creek admin building into a transportation operations headquarters for our co-chair operators will report to and dispatch to in the future. This is also known as Facilities Master Plan Phase 2. This task order is specifically for construction management support from consultants. I've presented 3 others very similar in nature to you in the past year and a half, all for larger construction projects. We use consultants to help augment our internal project management team on these larger projects to provide scope, including but not limited to compliance oversight, resolving issues, document control of submittals, RFIs, and change orders, inspections, progressing payments, and reporting. In accordance with our qualified vendors list for architectural and engineering services, 3 firms were chosen to interview for this specific contract, with Vanner Construction Management being determined to be the most qualified. An independent cost estimate was completed by our capital team of approximately $1.1 million, and Vanner's proposal was submitted at just under, or at approximately $1.093 million, which after some minor negotiations of terms was determined to be fair and reasonable. This contract will utilize approximately $141,000 towards small business enterprises, which will make up approximately 13% of the contract. This contract was planned for in the 2021 budget and is funded under Project 2002. And it is my team's recommendation that the board of directors authorizes the CEO to negotiate this contract. I'm here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Board have any questions for Greg? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a motion.
I move that the board of directors authorize the chief executive officer to negotiate and award a task order under RFQ-2017-079 to Veneer Construction Management Incorporated for the construction management services for the McAdam Admin Building Improvements Project for a not to exceed amount of $1,093,637.26.
Second.
It's been first and seconded, first by Joe Marine, second by Tom Merrill. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Greg, for coming to see us today about that. And now we'll go to the approval of RFP number 2021-056, purchase of bipolar ionization. Nope, I'm sorry, I missed one. Approval of 2021-012, heavy duty transit buses, Todd Burris.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Todd Burris. I am the Assistant Manager of Programs and Projects for the Maintenance Department. We have before you a memo to award RFP 2021-012 heavy duty transit buses. Community Transit's 6-year transit development plan identifies several new and increased bus services. To meet the TDP goals, Community Transit issued an RFP for a total of 85 diesel powered buses in a mix of 40-foot, 60-foot and 60-foot BRT to be procured within a 5-year contract term. These purchases provide both normal fleet replacement and expansion. The RFP includes an initial order to purchase 21 BRT 60-foot buses and has an option to purchase 64 additional buses within the contract term. The initial order of 21 BRTs include buses for both the Orange Line and Blue Line expansion projects. Any future orders for buses within this contract will be brought to the Board of Directors for approval. Our procurement division issued RFP 2021-012 on May 7th, 2021, and received 3 proposals on August 25th. The comprehensive evaluation analyzed buses and manufacturers, weighing many factors such as price, specifications, quality, aftermarket support, and past experiences. New Flyer of America Incorporated was ranked the highest for all 3 bus types, 40-foot, 60-foot, and 60-foot BRTs. Budget authority to purchase 21 BRT buses has been included in the proposed 2022 budget and was presented for consideration as resolution number 11-21 earlier in this meeting. So we would request that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award master contract RFP 2021-012 heavy-duty buses to New Flyer of America Incorporated for 40-foot, 60-foot, and 60-foot BRT buses, and award the initial order to New Flyer of America for 21 BRT 60-foot buses for a not to exceed amount of $20,241,127. Do we have any questions?
I have one just out of curiosity. Where did they build the buses?
It's in Minnesota, St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Burris on this particular topic? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award master contract RFP number 2021-012 heavy-duty transit buses to New Flyer of America Incorporated for a 40-foot, 60-foot, and a BRT 60-foot buses. Do you want both motions now, Chair?
Yes.
And award an initial order of the New Flyer of America Incorporated for 21 BRT 60-foot buses for not to exceed amount of $20,241,127.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. First by Sid Roberts, second by Joe Marine. Is there any discussion on the motion? I just think it's kind of weird the way everybody can say $20,241,127 without, kind of stuttering a little bit, but okay. Seeing no other comments, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstain? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, we will go to approval of RFP number 2021-056, purchase of bipolar ionization units. Mr. Burris, you're still with us.
Yes, and to your last comment, I am not used to saying those big numbers. Give me 5 digits, I'm all right. All right, on this one, we have before you is a memo to award RFP 2021-056 for the purchase of bipolar ionization units to be installed in all 362 revenue vehicles. This will include buses and paratransit. The COVID-19 pandemic has given the need to have clean and disinfected services within our vehicles. This purchase is part of our continued focus on safety for our passengers, drivers, and maintenance staff. These units will operate continuously while the vehicles are in service and while idling. These units are extremely efficient as they can eliminate 98% of viruses in 4 hours and 100% after 24 hours. On August 6, 2021, procurement issued RFP 2021-056 seeking proposals to supply bipolar ionization units and replacement parts for all 362 revenue vehicles. A total of 6 proposals were received on September 7th. Procurement, vehicle maintenance, and risk division staff evaluated the proposals based on published evaluation criteria. The aftermarket parts company ranked the highest in the evaluation process. The total negotiated price for all units and parts for 1 year of operation is $1,082,073. The 2021 and the 2022 Local Capital Projects Fund 46 includes adequate funds for the project under project number 2113. So we would like to request that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a contract with the Aftermarket Parts Company LLC for a not to exceed amount of $1,082,073. Any questions on this topic?
Yes, I have one. I noticed that the funds are coming out of the Capital Projects Fund, and since it's all COVID related, is there any reason we're not spending COVID funds for this?
I would have to ask for help on that answer. Jacob, would you happen to know that answer?
Or if we still have Mary with us.
Did Jake?
Mary is not with
This is
us
Jerry.
anymore.
Hi, this is Jerry Beardsley. Do you want me to answer
Sure.
that? Sure, thanks. The COVID funds that we're receiving through the various relief acts that the Congress has passed are primarily being used for operating expenses. We are paying the expenses up front and then being reimbursed by the federal government, which is typical of how they operate with their grants. We are using a small portion of the funds for bus purchases, and without looking at the document quickly, I'm not sure how much would be applied to this particular one, but I do know that some of our vehicles will use funds from the federal government, and so could include a combination of other grants plus the COVID relief funds. We don't typically in the board memos break out which federal fund sources we have. If you would like to have that information, I'd be happy to follow up with you.
No, I was just thinking that since it is specific to COVID, that was where the money was coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So I do have a question also, Mr. Burris. I'm familiar with bipolar ionization units from my time on nuclear submarines. What is you said that this is a 1 year, 1 year cost of $1,082,072. What are the maintenance costs going forward on the 2nd year, 3rd year? What kind of maintenances are we looking at?
Oh, I had that all. Oops. I had that in front of me earlier because I was kind of expecting that question. It wasn't a whole lot per vehicle.
And then would that include hours of these units need to be cleaned? I don't know how often the new units need to be cleaned, but how much would it cost in maintenance costs due to salaries? And if you don't have the answer right now, I would entertain getting an answer later on. It doesn't have to be done
could
right
easily
now.
do that. I had it sitting here on my screen, but with all the other things flipping around, I must have closed it out. But yes, I can forward that to you.
Thank you.
Tim?
Yeah.
Can I read what it says on that? Because there is a sentence that says estimated cost of replacement parts to cover future annual maintenance is $124,235 per year.
Okay, so that's for the parts. I'm wondering how much the maintenance is.
Well,
for
it
those.
says future annual maintenance, so I was assuming both the parts and the maintenance was included in that. It may not be, he can check and see, but it just says future annual maintenance. So
Okay.
Yep.
I just assumed.
Are you asking just as far as labor is concerned?
Yeah, I'm interested in how many hours it takes. I know how long it took us to do it on a subway
Yeah.
because I was in charge of that system.
On
I'm just
these,
wondering what it is on a bus.
yes, on these units, it's real quick and easy. Every 3 months, we replace exterior filter. Takes about 5 minutes, wipe it down, replace the filter. Once a year, you have to replace the, what do they call it, the bulb, the charge system within the unit. And that takes about 15 minutes per unit.
Okay. They made
So-
it very accessible then. They weren't
Yes,
accessible before.
Oh, very much accessible and not labor intense whatsoever.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burris. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Burris on this, the purchase of bipolar ionization units? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion, which is coming up on our screen right now.
I move the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a contract with the Aftermarket Parts Company LLC for a not to exceed amount of $1,082,173.
Second,
Okay, we have a first by Mr. Merrill and a second by Jan Schweddy. Any conversation around the motion itself? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, Mr. Burris. We appreciate you. Next is our last action item, adopt a city, I'm going to check, yeah, I'm right. Adopt a City of Everett Community Transit Agreement Joint Study Framework for Consideration of Consolidated Transit Services. And Roland Behe will be presenting this one.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and go to the first slide, Rachel. Yeah, Roland Behe, Director of Planning and Development. We'll just move through this. The action I'll be speaking to is an agreement between Community Transit and the City of Everett for a 12 to 18-month study. That'll create a potential roadmap for Everett to join the Community Transit Service District or Public Transportation Benefit Area, PTBA, as we call it. And the information gathered in the study will be necessary for the city to consider whether it will move forward with a ballot measure to join community transit in the future. As we've talked about this, the goal is achieving the best possible transit service for Everett and also the PTBA residents, really for the larger community as a whole. The board will recall that over the past 2 years, Everett has engaged in a series of Rethink Transit workshops to study and consider 3 options for provision of transit service in the city in the future. The 3 briefly were a status quo option, which is essentially a no action path, preserving the current framework for transit service. The second was a growth option that would continue to entail Everett Transit providing service, but increasing their sales tax from the current 6/10 to 9/10. And then the third option was growth through consolidation with community transit. And throughout this process, community transit has been in a supporting role toward the city's work to develop the growth through consolidation option. The Rethink Transit process concluded in the city on June 9th of this year with a presentation to City Council by city staff. And in that presentation, or at the conclusion of that presentation, the City Council directed staff to develop and bring back for the council's consideration this proposal to outline a City of Everett and Community Transit joint study framework to further develop information around the growth through consolidation option. City officials subsequently reached out to us for mutual discussion on how to design this collaborative study process. And again, the objective of this framework is to define a mutually agreeable integration plan whereby Everett could join the PTBA, and to define that at a sufficient level of detail to inform decision-making by Everett City Council. The joint study would inform a potential ballot measure for Everett voters to consider approval to move forward with the growth through consolidation option. Let's go to the next slide. So just briefly summarizing the main principles of the agreement that's before you. The focus is for both agencies to ensure the best possible transit future for the entire community. The integration plan is to be jointly owned and mutually agreeable. The plan would describe a path or process leading to the potential ballot measure, and Everett voters ultimately would decide the issue. The plan will describe service levels and type, bus, BRT, paratransit, microtransit, et cetera, both services connecting to destinations in the PTBA and services within Everett's neighborhoods. The value proposition for both Everett and the PTBA would be clearly described in the plan. The plan will address the transfer of facilities, fleet, and equipment. And finally, we provide for integration of Everett Transit workforce into the merged transit agency. Let's go to the next slide. So this slide just briefly summarizes the structure of this process as it moves forward. It is a three-part process that involves a joint policy committee comprised of 6 elected officials with even representation from both the City of Everett and Community Transit. An executive advisory group comprised of our CEO, Rick, and also Everett's deputy mayor, as well as additional executive staff to support that group. And then a technical working group, which would be comprised of agency staff tasked with creating the integration plan proposal. An important feature of the process is an independent facilitator that guides the work of both the Joint Policy Committee and the Executive Advisory Group, and also informs the work of the Technical Working Group. And that independent facilitator, as is outlined in the agreement structure, is jointly and evenly funded by both parties. Let's go to the next slide. So we're at the beginning of this joint study phase of the work. And again, as I described earlier, this builds on the previous workshops and study that Everett has undertaken with our support. Everett City Council adopted this agreement yesterday, December 1st, with the unanimous vote, as was described earlier. If approved today, the technical work would begin early next year in January with an initial joint policy committee later in the first quarter. We would expect the joint study framework to continue through 2022 and into early 2023. And then following this phase, and let's go to the next one, Rachel, here. Following this phase is a decision point for Everett and for Everett's council and ultimately for Everett's voters. So it's important to understand that what we're talking about today is undertaking what's on the left, which is the joint study with Everett and partnering with them in this phase. Everything that is on the right side of this slide would follow and would be pending decision by Everett City Council on whether to move forward. And then subsequent to that, on the outcome of a ballot measure to be put before Everett voters. So there's this decision point. Should Everett's council decide to move forward, they would bring a request to Community Transit's board, and you would be asked to consider a resolution authorizing an election, and then Everett voters would have an opportunity to decide that issue within the City of Everett. So that kind of outlines the high-level schedule, and again, the process that we're talking about today is the study work, really the due diligence to inform that decision by Everett's council on whether to move forward. Next slide. So the recommended motion is that the Board of Directors adopt the agreement between Community Transit and the City of Everett regarding consideration of consolidated transit services as outlined in the joint study framework for consideration of consolidated transit services. And as was noted earlier, we presented this to the Executive Committee last month, and they have recommended approval.
Thank you, Roland. Does anybody have any questions for either Roland or Rick? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I know there's been a ton of work put into this, and this has been a concept the board and staff has looked at for quite a few years now. I know our initial direction from board in previous administrations was to ensure that Everett was leading this effort, because it's obviously a a significant change for them and their customers and their citizens. Obviously, it'll also be a change for community transit, no doubt about that. But at any rate, I appreciate Rick and the team that have incorporated that strategy, and we're now kind of at a real crossroads. I just had a couple thoughts I wanted to share. One is, and I think the plan is well thought out. I realize this is just the kickoff point. We'll obviously get a much larger bite at the apple should we see a final plan come before this board after the Everett City Council deals with it. Correct? I mean, that I understand. This is the first step. You know, having been through the SERS Snow 911 consolidation, I can tell you that the facilitator choice here, I believe, will be really critical. In fact, in some ways, that can make or break the process because particularly since you're dealing, you know, when you're trying to bring two agencies together with in a lot of similar interests for sure, but there's also, you know, going to be some issues that need to be worked out. So hopefully there will be a lot of thought and time put into selecting a really good facilitator that understands how to do these things. Secondly, I would just ask, and I think this probably goes without saying, I would doubt anybody on this call would think any differently, but just, you know, whenever we're dealing with these kind of large scale decisions with big agencies like this that involve significant amounts of taxpayer money, these kind of big decisions need to be made with a lot of transparency or things get rough. And so I think it's just been my experience that transparency on the front end and is full and honest as we can. And it's not ever, I don't think that people don't want transparency. It's just, you know, in the midst of all the busyness and the craziness of these kind of negotiations and efforts, sometimes it, you know, we just don't put as much work into it. So I just encourage a lot of transparency on the front end so that the voters are understanding exactly what's happening. And frankly, so our ears are tuned to the voters so we don't try and put a plan through that is destined for failure. And then the last thing I would just ask on, this is more strictly on a community transit end of things, is, you know, we put our measure to the voters, oh gosh, was it probably 5, 6, I can't even remember now, 4, 5, 6 years ago. What was that, Rick?
2015.
2015, yeah, 6 years ago. 3/10, you know, was what we went forward with, and a lot of us support. You know, that was a tough thing to ask for, and it passed. And I think what our voters were telling us is this is a significant investment. I mean, when you go to the voters with a 1/10, you know, that's a tough, you know, when you go with it's the size of the package we went and you sell it and get it passed, I think our voters expect that we're taken care of for quite some time. And so I just want to make absolutely certain that as we do this, we're not ever putting community transit in a position where our leadership will have to come to this board and say, you know what, now we're in a position where we got to go back to the voters here, because I, for one, would not be supportive of that. And I'm not intimating that that's even a concept you guys are considering. I just want to make sure that as we do these negotiations that, you know, we've already gone to the voters for our big package and we don't want to do that again. Obviously, Everett's got business they're going to have to take care of. And I think there's a lot of win-wins here, no doubt about that. I just want to make sure that that's a concept that we're protecting from the community transit standpoint. And I appreciate that. Those are just the three, as I read through this, those are the 3 notes I jotted down. So thank you for all your work on this, everybody involved, Rick, Roland, and everybody. And I am supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Naring. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, did you want me to respond to the mayor's comments, or were those comments or questions? Because I could share a little bit of an update.
No, they were in the form of a question. I would appreciate response if you've got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate the feedback and the sort of trust but verify advice to staff as we go forward with this. So on the question of the facilitator, we have identified a facilitator. And we did go through a process with our city counterparts to make that a joint selection. And we arranged for that individual to sort of interview with a couple of policymakers from both bodies to ensure that there's a comfort level. We're going to be using a firm called Cedar River Group The principal there is a guy named John Howell, and he has extensive experience facilitating, very highly contentious and complex issues in the transit space and in the local government space. What attracted me to him in particular is that he facilitated between Sound Transit and the city of Bellevue over the planning and design of the Eastlink project, which was done in a hostile work environment. Just to leave it there, he's highly capable. So I think, confident, cautiously optimistic, we've got the right choice there. He respects the roles that the respective legislative bodies bring to these issues, and the need for transparency and the need for translating, really complex subject matter into compelling public concepts. So we're looking forward to working with him. That transparency issue, I could not agree more. This process is going to have a robust public-facing engagement component. To me, it's not unlike a transit system planning process where you want to float your concepts out for the public to respond to, so you can understand where they're coming from, what their priorities are, where the hotspots are, the things you have to address to have a chance at gaining acceptance of a final public plan and creating space, frankly, for board members to have a comfort level going forward. So that is our intent, to be sure. And then on the financing question, you've been consistent about that from the get-go, Mayor Nearing, that this is an opportunity to create an intuitive network serving the whole county that should not come at the expense of community transit's plans and priorities and the commitments we've got in place over the next couple of decades to serve the balance of the PTBA. So we're going to be vigilant on that score and make sure that when we do bring ideas and draft plans and eventually, hopefully, final plans back, that you'll see that reflected, and that we'll be able to present a not only intuitive but reasonable and safe package for policymakers to consider.
Thank you for that very much.
Anybody else have any questions for either Roland or Rick? All right.
All right, are you ready for a motion?
Go ahead.
All right, I move that the Board of Directors adopt the agreement between Community Transit and the City of Everett regarding consideration of consolidated transit services as outlined in joint study framework for consideration of consolidated transit services.
Second.
All right, it's been first and seconded, first by Joe Marine, second by Janet Schweddy. Any discussion on the motion?
I just say it's been a long time. I'm glad we're here.
Yep, I am too. I'm glad we're here. It's going to be a fun couple of years to watch this process come through. So we'll see what the end game is. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roland. All right, next we have, if I'm staying on track here, the chair's report. Lots going on in the area, in the entire state, actually. There's political stuff happening. There's changes in seats on the Senate and the House and all kinds of stuff going on that we all need to pay attention to. And I know you are, because your political is the same as I am, even though I try to say I'm not a politician. Like most of you, I like to just get the job done. So, but we also have a political swing on things. I'd like to say that this Saturday, we are going to have our Winter Fest, finally a full-blown Winter Fest. The last couple of years, of course, has been really tenuous. Santa Claus will be helping to light the tree between 4 and 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a lot of fun downtown. So if you don't have something going on in your own town, you can come see us. We'd appreciate that. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday and best wishes for the new year. And I hope everybody has a safe holiday and looking forward to a prosperous new year, staff and board. Thank you very much for a year that we've had. A lot of hard work goes into this, and it is not lost on the board, not lost on myself. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for January 6th at 3 p.m. And with that, we'll go to board communications, and I'll start with Nicola Smith.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you for all your great work and service on this board and in all the other places where you serve in the county. Appreciate all of you. Bittersweet for me to be leaving, but now I have 22 chickens I have to go take care of. So I'm replacing chickens with my staff with my chickens. But yeah, just it's been great working with all of you, and the staff here at Community Transit are just fabulous and so responsive and effective and efficient. You're just all super duper. And so I wish all of you well. And with my comments, I actually have to go. So you still have quorum without me. And I have to get to my 4 o'clock. So take care. Blessings. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Nicola. Good luck. Next will be Jan Schweddy.
Okay, I'll just make a quick note. Last night at Snohomish County Tomorrow's meeting, they did pass the growth numbers that have been assigned to the cities within Snohomish County. It will now go to County Council for final approval. I have to tell you, they're pretty shocking numbers. Arlington alone is getting 15,000. These numbers are to be met by 2044. So if you aren't familiar with them, I would check with your planners and see, because it is going to create a lot of conversation. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jan. Councilmember Roberts.
Well, thank you, Kim. Just want to say that I was sworn in as mayor about a week ago.
Okay, so now we want to talk to Mayor Roberts.
Well, yeah, whatever. But anyway, it was cool. But came in the first day, and I mean, the first walking in the door already had stuff to deal with that, was why I was elected. And so I'm very happy to be serving my community at Stanwood, and I'm sworn in now. They can start swearing at me. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Labor Representative Lance Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Mayor Naring.
Yeah, just congratulations to Sid. It's great to have him as mayor of Stanwood. Always appreciated the work he does in the county. And thank you to Nicola. I think she had to leave, but we appreciate all that she's done and the legacy she leaves behind. And lastly, much like Kim, we're really excited in Marysville to finally have our Marysville for the Holidays event back on for first Saturday of December, which is the Saturday from 4 to 7, concluding with our electric lights parade. So if you don't have anything going on, you're welcome to come down and join us and see Santa and everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Naring. Councilmember Merrill.
Thank you, Kim. I don't have anything for today.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Councilmember Joe Marine, I think, had to leave also. And then let's go ahead and go with Councilmember Gallagher.
Nothing from beautiful, wonderful downtown Broward today.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, I want to congratulate you on the moving forward with the Everett Transit and community transit discussions. These have been a long time coming. I think I've been hearing about this potential for 20 years. And now that we're moving towards a new regional approach, I think that that's the time to start helping to integrate both the Everett-based system and the regional system. So I'm really excited to hear that. I'm sorry that we're losing Nicola Smith, but it sounds like she has a great retirement planned.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
I have nothing to add, except for I just want to wish Nicola Smith a wonderful, wonderful retirement. We're going to really, really miss her. And that's it for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Matsumoto Wright. All right, we do have an executive session. You've got the link in your package. We need to leave this session and go into another. This session, let me get my notes, make sure I don't mess this up. It's for the performance of a public employee for about 10 minutes. It is subject to extension at our discretion. And when we come back into session, there is action to follow. Board members, including Labor Representative Lance Norton and alternates, we now ask that you leave this public meeting and join the executive session on Zoom for the other Zoom meeting. And then we'll come back to this one when we're done. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Six. It looks like we have everybody back. Is that true, Rachel? Except for Lance Norton.
Mhm.
And he is
Yes.
not needed for the vote, right?
Correct. We
Okay.
do have 5 voting board members at a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. So could you bring up the screen for what's going to be talked about here?
Chair, are you ready for the motion?
Just a second. Okay, so we've
Okay.
come out of executive session and coming into regular session. And we're going to be making a motion here shortly, and we've got everybody back. So go ahead and bring that up, Rachel, if you would. Thank you. And I would entertain a motion as soon as this is up.
I'll make that motion, Kim.
All right, go ahead, Jen.
That the Board of Directors approve Resolution 10-21, the First Amendment to the Employment Agreement for the Chief Executive Officer, with following inclusion in Exhibit A of the agreement with an effective date of January 1, 2022, with an annual compensation of $242,485.66.
That'd be 484. 484 and 66
Oh,
cents.
okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't see it on my screen. I have people's faces
Oh, okay,
on the far side. Sorry.
that's all right. Okay, so we have a first. We have a second.
Second.
And we have a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, we have other business. Is there any other business to be brought before the board by anybody on the board? All right, seeing none, I guess I'll call for adjournment. Everybody have a great Christmas season, holiday season, Hanukkah season, whatever you like. And we'll see you safely on the other side.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.